Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Brittany Flavell on the Riderflex podcast. Hi, Brittany. How's it going?
Hi. It's good. Thanks for having me.
Fort Myers, Florida. Been there many times. Sarasota, that whole area.
Yes.
Wonderful place to live. Love the west side there. The Gulf Coast of Florida is very nice. You weren't raised there though, right? Let's see. Talk to us. Give us the personal story. Where were you born? Where were you raised? Give us the whole personal side, family, the whole thing.
Yeah. So I was born in Colorado to my mom and dad. And then at about 2, my mom actually fled the state, kind of like by cover of darkness with me and my brother.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. And okay. We got there's some stuff in there. All right.
Yeah. So obviously she and my dad weren't getting along. They had a pretty tumultuous relationship. And at that point in their lives, they had a lot of drug influence going on. So she left and she went and moved in with my then stepdad. So I was raised predominantly outside of Washington, D.C. in Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay.
With a stepdad and my mom and my brother. And we moved to South Florida in 1999, right after the blizzard of 99.
How old were you?
I was 15, so I was going into my sophomore year.
You probably didn't want to move, did you?
No, I was ready to. We had like a similar tumultuous upbringing there. So like
you mean the stepdad and your mom, they also didn't, it was pretty rough.
Yes.
Ooh, man.
Also very rough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how old were you when so she got together with your stepdad though right after? So you had him throughout your childhood.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. I was actually raised to believe that he was my dad for most of my life. So
how old were you when you found out that he wasn't your real dad?
I think I was like a solid 9 years old when it was really became a thing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't mean to go backwards. We'll come back to the Florida move, but were you like, hey, well, where's my real dad? Like, what's going on?
I just knew I was different. I knew I was different. And I knew that, when we had gone to get my social security card, because I had to have that for school and stuff around DC, they had a different last name for me. And I argued with the lady. I was only about 4 years old, but I was arguing with her that was not my last name, that my last name was my stepdad's last name. And I was really confused kind of about everything. And, just thought I needed to set her straight. And bless her heart, she gave me a social security card with my stepdad's last name, which then later on caused issues getting my license because I had a birth certificate in one name and a social security card in a different name. So
wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever made contact with your real father?
I did, yes. So right before, I think it was right before we moved to Florida.
So you were around 14 or so, 13, 14, something like that?
Yeah, I was almost 15 at that point. Yeah.
Tell me about it. What happened? Did you call him? He called you? Tell me about the moment.
So he reached out. He had been sober I think for close to 10 years at that point. Okay. So he wanted to make sure he was sober before he reached out to me and that it was going to stick. It wasn't like a fleeting thing. Which I really respected. And then we built a relationship over the next, several years. And here today, he's dad just like usual. So
where does he live now?
He's still in Colorado, same town.
Well, I live in Colorado. I live up north near Loveland. Where's he at?
So he's in Granby.
Okay. All right. Did
Yeah,
he
so
remarry? Did he remarry and have kids and all that?
he remarried. They didn't have kids. She already had kids. So I have a stepsister and a stepbrother, and they've actually been married for like 25 years now. So yeah, very
Okay.
successful marriage, I would say. Yeah.
Well, good for him. All right. So he,
Yeah.
so it was rough with your mom, but he got his shit together, so to speak.
Yes. Yes, he did. Very much so. Yeah.
And you have a relationship with him now.
Yes. Yes. Very
That's
much
that's good. That's good. That's good. Now,
so.
all right. Now, okay. So let me go back here. So your mom is your brother not your full brother? Is your brother?
He's half brother. Yeah.
I see. So your mom got pregnant right away with your brother when she left with the other guy and moved to Bethesda or something like that.
She no, she already had my brother and she got
Oh,
divorced and then had me. And then she left my dad. And then her and my stepdad never had kids. My stepdad never wanted children at all.
I see. So
So
your stepdad and your mom had a rough relationship. Now, did he move to Florida with you guys, or was that with just you and your mom?
no, he moved us to Florida. So
All
he
right.
stayed working in the Washington, D.C. area. He was like one of the largest insurance brokers for health employee benefits.
He didn't come to Florida?
He did, but he worked there and he'd commute down. So he'd work there for a week and come down for 2 weeks and work up there for a week and come back for 3 weeks. And it was kind
So
of different. Yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah. And your mom, what was she doing at the time?
She was always a stay-at-home mom with him. She assisted in his business when we lived in Maryland, and then that kind of went by the wayside when we moved. So she joined in on, committees. She was always like the PTA mom. She was on every committee possible.
Is that
So
right?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Now see all this stuff gives me a little background to your personality and who you became.
Yes.
All this stuff affects you as you're growing up. Okay,
Yes.
very good to know. Are they
Yeah.
still married?
No, he died in 2005.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
died in 2015. And they had divorced. Gosh,
Oh, mm,
7. So probably like close to 7 years prior to that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. And how's your mom doing now?
I mean, my mom's great. She's a very resilient woman. She's always been very independent. Um, yeah, she's great. She's her
Does
normal
she ever
self.
did, does she ever tell you about does she ever tell you anything about the hippie parties in Colorado with her and your dad? Did she ever share any?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she definitely but she was also kind of like a really good girl, like a goody two shoes girl. So, yeah. So I
You
think
know,
go
huh?
ahead.
Well,
I,
yeah, go ahead. You think your dad
I
what?
think my dad was like the bad boy, and then
I
my
see.
stepdad was the bad boy, and yeah, that kind of
Okay,
thing.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to get my mom to talk to me about, stuff all the time because she owned a bar with my dad. I mean,
Okay.
they were pretty wild. And now my mom's what is that? I think she's 74. And of course now she's, church every day and all this. And
Right.
trying to get her to talk about old stories is very hard. She likes to just kind of pretend like, no, that was a
It
different
didn't
life,
happen.
and don't,
Yeah.
yeah, that never happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. A lot of that gives me some flavor for you then as you were growing up and kind of what you went through and the lifestyle you had there. Were you a good teenager, bad teenager, rebel, like perfect straight A student? Where were you in the mix there?
Yeah, so I kind of barely made it through school. Studies weren't like really important. I had a really interesting upbringing when it comes to like scholastics, I guess you'd say. My
Hmm,
mom was, went to like an all girls college and did very well all through all her grade school years and everything.
okay.
And what I knew of was that my stepdad had two master's degrees
Hmm,
and Vietnam veteran and kind of like the overachiever. And yet there was no emphasis put on me doing well in school or my brother doing well in school. Like nobody really checking homework, nobody helping with class stuff. It was kind of bizarre, actually.
Interesting. Wow. I wonder why that is. Hmm.
Yeah.
Could have been your stepdad and your mama wrapped up in their own lives, and sometimes they maybe don't dip down into their education. Who knows? I think it was a little bit the same for me. Okay, so you barely got through. Well, how'd you get into FSU then?
Right. Yeah. How'd that happen? So when we moved to Florida, I had to go to Catholic high school because the thought process was that the public school systems weren't like of any merit. So the Catholic school said, sure, we'll take her. Essentially, we'll take your money. And then, but the requirement was that I had to be in a learning disabilities course for the entirety of my education there. So that was kind
Wow.
of unique. Yeah, yeah, it was kind of unique. It was actually very helpful. I kind of like bucked it at first. I didn't really want to do that because I felt like, like I wasn't smart or something. Uh,
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, but I was failing prior to that. I was just failing. So I made it through high school, just barely. And then I got into the community college, and I figured out that if I did my AA, then I would be accepted into one state university. As long as I completed my AA, I could be accepted basically like unconditionally into one state university. So I applied to Florida State. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, very good. So
Yeah.
I'm picking up then that you didn't grow up wealthy, but your stepdad was making good. Your family had you were middle, like upper middle class maybe, or something like that. They had enough money to put you through these schools in high school and all that.
Yeah. No, we were pretty wealthy. We were
Oh,
pretty,
okay, okay, all right,
yeah.
all right. Your mom married well the second time.
Yes, yes, and I think purposefully. Yes,
uh,
yes.
okay, well, hey, kudos.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. All right. So, but you never did get into, but you didn't tell me, there was no partying, no sneaking out of the house, no arrest records for nearing high school, nothing crazy.
I mean, I think I was a pretty typical teenager. I would spend the night at people's houses where I could sneak out, but there was no sneaking out of my house at all. Um, you know.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I was a pretty I mean,
Typical.
I think
Typical.
I was pretty typical teenager. I probably got in a little more trouble than some, but that's because I had really some confidence issues because I was not doing well in school, and I didn't, I had to like kind of make my place elsewhere. And we
Okay.
traveled. So we traveled for 3 months out of the year,
Hmm.
because that's what my stepdad liked to do. He liked to travel all around. We had a motorhome.
Oh.
Um, Yep, we
Oh,
towed
oh.
like a VW, like a Volkswagen Beetle that he cut off the back end of and hung a Porsche engine off of, and it turned it
What?
into a truck. Yep. So
Well,
it was
you,
a
oh,
little bitty
wow.
tow car, and then he had one of those Coast Guard Zodiac boats that he would deflate and fold up in the back of the truck. So we had a boat, a truck, and the motorhome wherever we went.
Now that's pretty cool. Now your stepdad actually sounds like a pretty cool guy. Were you close to him, and was it painful when he passed?
Yeah, so he was a very interesting man, and I would have told you I was very close to him for most of my life. He was always a little bit weird because he drank too much. So as I got older, I started kind of distancing myself. And actually, at the time he passed, we probably hadn't spoken in about 2 years
Oh,
at
bummer.
that point. Yeah.
Mm,
So after he passed, much more of who I am and who he was became very apparent to us. So like I told you before, like 2 master's degrees, Vietnam veteran. That was actually all false. He
What?
actually never was in the military. He,
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. When did this come to light?
Yeah, so he was a sociopath actually. He was a narcissistic alcoholic sociopath.
But meanwhile, he's making tons of money in this
Tons
insurance
of
business.
money. He did all the employee benefits for Coca-Cola, for United Nations, for Hershey's. Yeah, tons of money. and
but
lived
me,
had duplicate lives and a completely false, his entire life was false. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What are you sitting around at Christmas dinner one time with your mom and your mom's like, hey, by the way, I need to tell you something.
No, after they got divorced, and actually it wasn't until after he passed that she told us that he actually had like twin boys in another like state obviously with another female. And his brother came out and told us, because we thought we needed to do like a military like burial and
Oh,
stuff and
right.
funeral. And his brother was like, no, you can't do that. He was never in the military. That was all a lie. And then
Wow.
like, yeah, we reached out to like his buddies in high school at that point and college. And, we kind of inquired into like, hey, like, did he even go to college? Because we never saw any degrees. And even though he was like, oh, I have all these degrees, he was always very against us with school, like college. He always put college down. He was always like really negative.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know why, because he's making millions of dollars and he never went to school.
Yeah, partially for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
uh,
Yeah. So
how did that affect you? Were you like, I mean, you had to have some reflection moments where you're like, wow, okay, so
I
I
had
mean,
some like, wow, that's pretty like astonishing. Like it's astounding that somebody was able to maintain that. And no wonder you drank, because that was a real burden to carry, I feel like, and not and like a painful burden. So
no
I
doubt.
actually had like a lot of compassion, I think, is kind of, instead of getting upset or feeling bad for myself or anything weird like that, I really kind of turned it into compassion for somebody who, was clearly mentally ill. I mean, for lack of a better term. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
did
Yeah.
his best to present a life that he thought would be, most widely accepted, maybe for sales. I don't know, like maybe he thought that made him more saleable, or I don't know.
Now, I can imagine you were like, Mom, like you were married to him all these years. You didn't know that this, like, really? You didn't know?
Didn't know anything. Didn't know
Okay.
a thing. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of scary. Owned properties all over the US we didn't know about. Yeah.
What? Now, your mom, that had to affect your mom too. I mean, emotionally, psychologically, your mom has to be like, wait a minute, I lived with this guy. How long were they married?
Yeah. She's been very, very, they were married for 25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25 years, and you find out all this stuff. I mean, that has to affect you, right? Your mom has to
Yeah.
have been emotionally and psychologically affected by that. Like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't believe it, right? Yeah.
I think she was, and my brother definitely was, because my brother legitimately joined the military to kind of like follow in his shoes, because like if you weren't in the military, you were like considered nothing to my stepdad. So, which was like, yeah. So
How does your mom how has your mom moved past this? How does she? I mean, you and her have had to have many conversations, I'm sure. Like,
I mean, we didn't really have a lot of conversations. I think because I was probably the most resilient, and because I just instantly was like compassionate.
hmm,
I didn't really allow it to bother my space. Like it was
mhm,
just kind of like, wow, that's an amazing fact. That took a lot of work, and like that's kind of sad, because you were
mhm,
obviously in pain, like that, you know what I mean? I see that
mhm.
person as like being in pain.
It's a good point.
And
That's a
like,
good point. Good perspective. Yeah.
yeah, and like what we did find out strangely is that the only classes he ever did take in college were actually theater classes.
Perfect.
So, right,
Perfect.
perfect, good fit. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
how old is your mom now?
She's in her 70s. I think she's like 70. I think she's like 74. Yeah.
Does she now, when she meets people, when she meets anybody new, she's like, okay, what's this person lying about? I don't trust anybody.
Right. She's still like remarkably pretty. I think she's pretty trusting still. So I definitely got that like trusting, hopeful, like genuinely like start off positive side from her.
When you found out, okay, now how about you? Right, because I want to tie this together. What's your social situation now? Partners, married, single? What's
Yeah,
your?
so I'm married. I'm
Okay.
married, and we have 7 children. And yeah,
What? Okay,
yeah,
you got all kinds of interesting personal stuff going on.
yes, I
You're
do.
like a movie. You're like a movie. You're a movie.
A little bit.
Are they all yours?
So four I've birthed, yes, and then 3 were my husband's children prior. So we're a blended family, like a Brady Bunch.
I hear like a dog. Do I hear a dog in the
My
background?
dog is drinking a lot of water right now.
Okay, so you met your husband and he had 3 kids already?
I did. I had 3 children already.
No,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me go back. Hold on. Wait. All right, you got 7 children and you were both married once before?
Yes,
Okay, and you had 3 and he had how many?
he had 3.
I'm confused. You said you had 7. Let me start over.
Yep.
I'm
So then we had 1 together.
Oh, okay. So, all right, you're okay. So your first marriage, how long were you married the first time?
Very short. Very
Well,
short.
it could have been too short. You had 3 kids.
Yes. Well, I had 1 child while I was in college at FSU.
I see.
And yep. And then I got married and I had 2 children, kind of like a back-to-back kind of deal. And then
Okay.
I got divorced straight away. So
Wow. And then all of a sudden you're a single mom with 3 kids. Ooh, boy,
yes.
that's
Yes.
not easy. That's not easy.
No, that was not easy. That was hands down the toughest point in my life ever. For
I
sure.
can imagine. What were you doing professionally at that time?
I was in construction sales, and I led a team of new home salespeople for new construction,
I
for
see.
custom and semi-custom homes.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
what? You meet this guy and you're like, "Hey, yeah, you're cool." And then he's like, "I got 3 kids." And you're saying to yourself, "No, we can't do that." That's
No, I dated some people who like didn't have children, and that just really wasn't a good fit because
I see.
I had like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and then my oldest son is quite a bit older than them, so he was at that point was like 12, 11 or 12. Yeah.
Okay. And how'd you meet this? What's your husband's name?
Chris.
How'd you meet Chris?
We met on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then he told you he had 3 kids. You're like, okay, well, that might work because he understands. He gets it, right? He gets it, you know.
He definitely, I think what I liked about Chris was that he was a very active dad. So he was similar to me with my first, first long-term relationship. My oldest son's dad. We never had to have like papers from a judge or anything. We always worked our visitation together. We always worked expenses together. Nobody had to explain that to us or work it through for us. And Chris and they actually weren't married, but Chris and his ex at the time were, very amicable about how they raised the kids,
Okay.
So
Your audio is doing that same thing. I don't know what we're doing now. It's kind of chopping back, but can you move up closer?
Yes, I can. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So wow, you have had an interesting, and then it's funny. I met my wife. She had 2 kids, and I had 2 kids. So together we had 4. And
Yeah.
when we first met, she was like, "Hey, let's have one together." I'm like, "Man, we got 4 already. Like, really? Do we really need another one?" So and we didn't have one. So kudos to you guys. You had 6, and you're like, let's have another one. Why not?
Yeah. Our kids were kind of having a hard time blending. And she was kind of unexpected. We were going to discuss having her like in a few months. That was our plan. And then we found out we were pregnant. So we just decided that was kind of God's decision and that we were with it. Yeah.
Okay. Are you religious? Are you a church going religion? What's your faith?
I am now. I'm Christian and I do go to church every Sunday.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing all this. I'm trying to make sure your mic is okay because I don't want to mess this up for the listeners. I
Okay.
don't know what it's getting that static feedback sometimes, and I want
I
to make
don't
sure.
know. I don't hear it on my end, so it's hard for me
Yeah,
to.
let's move it around a little bit. Let's move it around for the listeners. For the listeners, this is we're not going to edit this out. We're just going to leave this in. It's going to be in the
Okay,
podcast.
it's like literally right next to me now. So
Okay.
hopefully it's better. It also might be my computer is a laptop and sometimes it has like a little feedback because the fan kicks on and
That
the
could
fan
be
is
it.
on right now. It might be the fan.
I think that might be it. So maybe move the mic back from it just a tad. Maybe move it the other way.
Yeah, it was back before.
Was it? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just
No,
trying to
you're
throw out any
fine. I
ideas
can switch maybe to that's
for
the
the list.
camera's mic. Is that better?
Let's go with that. Let's go with
Okay.
that. 7 children. What are the ages?
18, almost 19, and then 16, almost 17, and twin 14-year-olds who are almost 15. We have a 9, a 7, and a 2.
Damn. Oh my God. Okay. It is busy at your house. Holy cow. Plus teenagers and teenagers, just one teenager is challenging. I mean, you got
Yeah,
several.
yeah, we do.
You got all these hormones flying around. You got all kinds of stuff happening at your place.
Yeah. I almost think it might be like easier though. Um, because
Because
sometimes you hear about like the one teenager and they're like, obviously they're going through all kinds of stuff and they kind of seem like the Lone Ranger. But in my household, there's 4 of them and they're all just ridiculous and they agree that we're all just ridiculous. So I
you
think
could
there's like
do,
they take some comfort in that, you know, like
yeah,
it's like,
it's possible. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I can see that. Have you thought about putting cameras all over your house and doing a YouTube reality show? I mean, come on,
we
that would be
have
cool.
cameras because I refuse to spend time figuring out who did what because it's always like, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, you know? And we laugh, like some of our best moments have been like, you know, like the whole family's there and we're trying to figure out who did what. Like I'm like, where did my dish towel go? Like this is the last time I'm talking to you guys about my dish towel. I'm so frustrated. And then we're like, well, let's go look at the cameras. And we're sitting there watching and watching. And usually the funniest part is usually it's my husband or I who have put something somewhere. Yeah. So
Uh,
we all laugh and laugh and we just think mom and dad are ridiculous. Yeah.
that's pretty good. Who's the tough one? Are you the sergeant and your husband's the easy one, or is it vice versa? What's
We're like we like we're like duality. Like so when I'm the tough one, he's the soft one. When
I
he's the
see.
tough one, I'm the soft one. It kind of works out well, but
Very good. Got one more question about the kids, and we'll move into the professional stuff. You got any rebels in there? Which one's good? Which one's the tough one? Which one's going to be
oh
the
yeah.
okay,
So one of the twins, Christopher, he's a rebel.
is he?
And then the 7-year-old Axel, he's a rebel. And I'm
Not you didn't name him after Axl Rose because you were a Guns N' Roses fan, did you?
so he was named after like it's a Danish name for it's supposed to mean the father of peace, and that was a lie. Yeah, that kid can't even like touch something without breaking it. So yeah.
Oh man, it is fun at your house. Okay, I really appreciate you sharing all that. The listeners will be able to relate, right, to you as a
Yes.
person. So
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing all that. Okay, so I want to tell us about the business. I guess my first question is, why is it called J Galt? I don't where'd that come from, and give us the overview of the business. But when you're giving the overview, talk about the name if you don't mind. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So the company name is Flavell Financial, doing business as J Galt Finance Suite. So J Galt is essentially after like who is John Galt, right? Have you ever heard of that?
I have. So
Okay.
okay,
Yeah. So it comes from the book Why Atlas Shrugged. And
okay.
essentially the meaning behind that is that every entrepreneur is is John Galt, right?
I
So
see.
like he's not like just a person. It's everyone who basically has the courage to take the risk to become an entrepreneur,
Oh,
essentially.
very good. Okay. Was jgalt.com already taken? I noticed you got jgalt.io. Yeah, talk to me about
Yeah.
the URL. How'd that go?
Yeah, so actually, so part of what I did when I left the bank, big corporate position with the
Mhm.
bank to start my business. And what I did was I purchased into like a kind of like a mini franchise of sorts, but not. It really wasn't a franchise. So I was purchasing like rights to utilize like a SaaS product, which is service as a software.
Mhm.
Um, or software as a service. I always get that
Mhm.
backwards. Yeah. So they already had those things kind of in place, which was where you got to like utilize them. So it's more like a tool in my toolbox for what I do.
And who
Uh,
was that? What was that company that you purchased that from?
it's J Galt Finance Suite.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So jgalt, I see. All right. Now I got it. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you paying them a continual fee now, royalties or
No,
something?
no, it was it was a one time like purchase
Okay.
fee. Yeah.
Okay. Was that a lot of money?
Not tremendous. No,
No.
not
Okay.
tremendous. I pulled money
Okay.
out of my 401k at the time to do that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had to start somewhere and it's, startup costs for anything or kind of a thing.
How long's the business? How long have you had it?
I started my business in October of last year.
October of last year, and you took out 401k money to do that. Okay,
I
very
did.
good.
I did. Yes.
All right. All right.
It's
Go give us the overview. I kind of cut you off there a little bit. Tell the listeners what is the business?
So the business morphed into its own being, first of all, right? It started out as basically like selling the knowledge of how to properly build business credit on your EIN. So completely separate from your social security number, which was a really big deal for me coming from the bank because less than 2% of my clients were ever getting approved for business products like that. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew why. And we had no training. And there were plenty of things that I touched, in opening business accounts, um, or even filling out applications for clients for business products. And I had no idea what I was doing or the impact or anything. And as I kept seeing people, not get approved for things, that kind of doesn't work for me. So like my brain's really problem solving oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went into like hyper problem solving mode when it came to business credit and started seeking out the knowledge and how to actually accomplish it and what factors affected it and all kinds of stuff. And I eventually came across Jay Galt, and they had pretty much just launched at that point. Um, and I was interested in what they were doing, and they had like some videos and stuff like that, and it was all in sync with things that I had previously read, but it was like way more comprehensive. So I started out thinking I'm gonna like change the world. I'm gonna sell this business credit building software, that somebody can have a membership to essentially. That also we also provide cash flow analysis,
Okay.
and then business valuations and stuff. So it
Oh,
had like a lot of really
all right.
valuable pieces. Yeah. But I did not anticipate exactly how much of like a learning curve there was going to be because I really thought I had a pretty solid understanding just of credit in general, which I did for
Mm-hmm.
personal credit. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely for financing, products and things like that. But business credit was a whole different thing, just a whole different thing.
Okay.
And there were a lot of pieces to it that I hadn't anticipated. So when I started gaining clients for the business credit portion of it, they would come to me with, other problems, like cash flow problems. Like, hey, Brittany, I'm trying to build this business credit because I have cash flow problems. So I eventually expanded into like, cash flow consulting, because that became a need for a large majority of my clients.
Okay.
And then I branched out into, working with them on just the knowledge piece of personal credit, because personal credit does initially kind of overlap with your business credit. And it has to be kind of tight and right in order for you to qualify initially for some products. And then as your business credit grows, then you can start to separate and move away from anything that touches your personal credit, which is the ultimate goal, is that your business stands on its own EIN with its own credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So is it a consultancy firm then? Is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Management consulting is really what it is at the end of the
Okay.
day.
And the consulting is on how to effectively get credit for your business, also cash flow, and what else?
And I also do like marketing budget allocation consulting. So like I have a pretty fantastic process for identifying what I call is like the golden ticket client, like who is your easiest, best
Huh?
paying,
Huh?
happiest client that signs right away, that has no issue making the payment, who
I need more of those. I need more of
yeah.
those.
Yeah. So there's a way to completely identify that, hone in on what that looks like, as like if you were going to call them a person, and then taking your marketing, monies and actually applying it strictly to that demographic. And it's fantastic what it does for my clients who've had like, cash flow problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So this is really turning into a full-blown agency, a consulting agency
Yes.
for what would you call it? Startup to small or small to mid? What's your target?
Yeah. So like, I would say it's typically people, doing at least like, 100 to 200,000 minimum, up to the million plus ish mark. Much after a million, they're at a different level. They have different problems at that level. I
Okay.
definitely have experience with helping true startups, like, pardon me, like brand new companies, but
Okay.
there's really no money there because they haven't made any money yet. So I
Right.
actually
Right.
do that pro bono for some people. So if they come
Do
to
you
me
take
for,
equity? Do you take equity for that?
I haven't yet. I've actually
Okay.
exchanged for reviews, and it was kind of more of a process to see how well I could help them first.
Okay.
Um, and
Okay.
that's become a paid-ish service now. So.
Do you concentrate on product companies, service companies, certain industries, anything like that?
No, I don't in particular. I have quite a few clients who are in the construction industry. I
Okay.
have quite a few clients who are um who are newer, really. Um,
Okay, but it's all you're industry agnostic, so to speak.
yeah, I am, which is weird, right? But
That's
so
okay.
my golden ticket client is really the business owner who has encountered some kind of pain point when it comes to credit and their business, and they're
Okay.
at a pivotal point of needing to grow,
Mhm.
but they need the capital to be able to grow, and yeah, and they're kind of in that space.
Okay, I want to walk you through my situation here. Tell me, you don't have to give me
Okay.
free consulting on the call, but this will be a good sample, right? So, all right, so our day job here at Riderflex is we're a recruiting firm, right? We're a recruiting
Yes.
and sourcing firm. So what, besides the Riderflex podcast, what we do for a living is place candidates into companies, right? Companies pay us to find people.
Yes.
So we're a recruiting firm. We'll probably do $2.5 million this year in revenue, but when we were doing close to 1 million, this was a couple of years ago, I guess. I went down to the bank and I said, "Hey, look, we're not necessarily in the need for cash. I mean, our cash is okay, but I would like to get a line of credit established. I've always been told, get your line of credit established when you don't actually need it. So I go down to the bank. I'm like, hey, yeah, I'd like to get a line of credit, you know, in case we ever need it for something. We are running $1 million worth of deposits through here every year. So I think I'm a good customer.
Right.
And the answer was no. They're like, no, we don't, you're a service business. We don't, there's no, you know, unless you want to put your home, unless you want to put your homes up as collateral, the answer is no. And I was like, well, I'm running $1 million. What are you talking about? Like, I'm a good customer. Like,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of money in the bank right now. I mean, you could actually give me a line of credit against the cash that's actually in the checking account. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So that happened to me. So when we were going to do this interview, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to ask her about this, because this is the exact same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
So then I call some advisory board members, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? They weren't even like. Anyway, bottom line is I didn't get a line of credit at the bank. We didn't ever need it. Haven't really needed it, but it would be nice to have it in case something happened.
Absolutely. Yes. So here's a couple of little unknowns about bank line of credit. So any bank product, first of all, credit cards, lines of credit, business loans via the bank, nothing actually reports back positively to business credit bureaus. So you are essentially utilizing all your own personal credit. It's reporting on your personal credit. And it's not building you any business credit.
So what do I do? I know what I need to do. I need to go to jgalt.io and talk to Brittany and pay her to help me. That's what I need to do.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing I would tell you to do, part of what we do with Galt's software is that it teaches you there's 125 points you actually have to have in place to even begin to qualify for business credit products that are truly on your EIN, right? So you have to have all those pieces in place, and some businesses arrive at that, you know, once they've reached 5 or 10 or 20 years in business, they kind of organically have arrived at all 125 points. But newer businesses, obviously, like generally speaking, have not at all. So you have to be very intentional about true business credit products. Yep.
Okay.
The other piece to that is just that, sorry, my dog's drinking water again.
How many dogs you got? You got 7 kids and what? 5 dogs? How many dogs you got?
We have 3 dogs, a cow,
Jesus.
3 pigs.
Holy God. Oh
turkeys.
My God. Okay. You've got to do a reality show for your
or that. I could probably, the Flavells.
The Flavells. I like it. It's got a good ring to it. So do you get paid? Is it like, hey, you just pay me a consulting fee one time? You pay me by the month? You pay me from the results that I get for you for the line of credit? What is the model? How do you make money?
Yeah. So when it comes to the finance suite, they pay a 1 year's worth of membership, which membership is like $297 a month if you were going to break it down. They pay that up front for a 12-month term, or they can pay an $18.50 new client fee, and then they pay monthly thereafter for as long as they choose no contract.
So I think I'm just doing some quick math. Roughly $4,000 for a year for me to pay you to help me get a line of credit.
So it takes a year to build your business credit, and it actually builds in tiers. So you have to start with tier 1 products before you qualify for tier 2 products. And to arrive at an actual line of credit on your EIN would be a tier 4 product.
That takes a year. I mean, I can't just pay you and then next month we go down to the bank and I get my line of credit. It doesn't work. It's not like that.
Quite. Yeah, it doesn't quite. It actually takes, so it's very similar to personal credit in the fact that you have to, to gain credit, you have to show a positive relationship with credit products, over time, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So your
Okay.
bank line of credit, just an FYI, that a lot of people are really keen on those. I'm not, because
Oh.
especially during recessions like what we have right now, they will
Mm.
automatically go in and shrink your line of credit without your knowledge, and they're allowed to do that.
Oh, I see.
So if
Where should I be targeting the line of credit then?
Yeah, so there's other financial institutions who provide EIN level lines of credit, or there's revolving credit products like essentially credit cards with massive, massive limits, much larger than the standard bank, 25,000
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
35,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those
Okay.
are really a better product to carry at that point. And that's more of like I like to call it the Walmart level product, right? Walmart
I
has
see.
like over 850 lines of credit. And they actually carry like upwards of, I think it's $4 to $6 billion of debt. And it's not because they can't pay it. They do that purposefully. It's a
Mm-hmm.
strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. I think you could help a lot of the people that come on the Riderflex podcast. I mean, most of our guests you probably saw, they're all startup to small
Yes.
entrepreneurs. Almost every
Yes.
one of the people that come on the
Yes.
show, and they're talking about their business, and some of them are in the middle of cash raise, some of them are the different phases or whatever, but having a line of credit is never a bad idea.
No, it's not. And see, I would have directed you, Steve. I would have directed you to a different type of financing. So business products are kind of unique in that they have like products for every type of weird financing need a business could have. Like
Okay.
so they
Okay.
have lines of credit that you can get based on your current signed contracts. So if you knew you
Mhm.
had $1 million
Yeah.
in
Yes.
signed contracts for the year, then you could get a line of credit on that. Very
Ah.
easily too. Very
Well,
non-invasive, very
yeah,
easy.
I need to be doing that. I need to be
Yes.
doing that.
Yes. Yeah, that's really the best course of action for you being a service-based business.
Okay.
They
All
also make
right.
business products like where as long as you're buying a piece of property that your office will be in, then they will lend to you, with very limited, non-invasive requests for financials and things like that. But it has to be a space that you're going to have your office in, and then you can buy it.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
good. We need to talk. We need to talk talk offline for sure. All
surely.
right.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
Um jgalt.io. You can also Brittany Flavell is also on LinkedIn. I guess you can connect with her there, right? Anything else you want to mention? Any other contact points or any books or YouTube channels or anything you want to mention?
Yeah, so I'm coming out in a book in the next few months.
All right.
I'm like a co-author on kind of like a mompreneur book.
I love
Uh,
it.
yeah, which is neat. Yeah. So, and then I have several Facebook groups that I actually give out like continuous up to date advice on business credit stuff that clients would encounter.
You want to
Um,
mention those? What are they?
yeah, yeah. So, to give like proper names would probably be important, right?
Yeah, in case people want to join the group for sure.
Yeah. So I have a business credit building for contractors and trades.
Okay.
And then probably my largest group is business credit for female entrepreneurs.
But what about the guys? How come we can't have
Yeah.
on just the dudes?
Yeah. So that was like a neat thing. When I went into business, I thought I'm really going to empower women, to get credit and build businesses much bigger and this, that, and the other. And, when my daughter would talk about wanting to own a business, I'd say, you're going to own the whole city, like I was really, because I was raised predominantly, by a man who was kind of adamant that women were, like assistants, but not the actual business owner, right? And I always kind of, as a little girl, was like, no, I'm going to own a business.
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Does your husband own part of this? Who's on the cap table? Like, who owns the LLC? Is it you
Yeah, so
100%?
I own the LLC.
All
Yes.
right. All right. All right.
And my
Very good
husband
for you.
has his own business, so doing like
Okay.
light work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. How many employees do you now? Did you mention all the Facebook groups before I ask you this next question? Did you mention what you're
Yeah,
going to
so
do?
there's a few, like I broke them down like initially kind of by industry because I wanted to see kind of what took off. So like I
Oh, okay.
have a group for healthcare companies, for
No.
real estate related businesses. Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a couple of different, and then for like churches and nonprofits, because they can actually build tremendous business credit as well. Um,
No.
which is really vital for them putting on like, fundraisers and things like that. It takes money to make money, you know?
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good. Good job on the Facebook groups. Do you have
Yeah.
any employees? Are you running this by yourself? How big is your team?
Yeah. So I have like 3 employees. That's about
Okay.
it. But
All
that was
right.
a lot. And I know one of your questions that I had seen was like, what was your biggest struggle? And by
Yeah.
far, it was that I thought I was in business to do what I love, right? Which is help people achieve their dreams. And what I realized shortly thereafter is I was in business to learn how to hire people. That was like a full-time job that I did
Yes.
not love.
You
So
know, it's really, and we could do a whole nother episode on that. Once your team and Riderflex now as a recruiting firm, we have 30 people involved. And, yes, as the business owner, it quickly becomes a human management people organization. I mean, you are managing
what it
people
is.
and not as focused on the business technical aspect. A lot of times you're just trying
Yeah.
to have the right people in the right place to do the stuff, and it's more like that as you keep going.
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you're having problems of recruiting people, it's riderflex.com is the best recruiting firm on the planet. I think I'll
Yes.
probably give
Yes.
them
I
a plug.
agree. I definitely agree. I was
um
inspired by, yeah.
I know we're bumping up against our time here. I could keep you on longer, for sure. I know we some of the entrepreneurial stuff I didn't have a chance to get into, but
Huh.
you'll have to come back on the show. Let's do this. I want to ask you one last question, and then hang on, but don't hang up yet. But when I hit the stop on the recording, you have had an interesting life. You've had a pretty fascinating life, and you still got a long ways to go. I mean, you got these teenagers. I mean, you got more stuff is flying your way. Trust me. I've raised 4 kids, and when you got teenagers, shit
Yes.
happens. So you got stuff coming your way. So
Yes.
prepare. What is your core purpose in life moving forward? Like when you think about kind of your go forward purpose, right?
Yeah.
How would you summarize it? How would you, explain that to somebody?
Yeah. So I would say that I always lacked a person in my life to help me kind of like reach my goals and dreams, right? And it kind of became an overwhelming purpose that I had to help others. But it also transferred into how do I teach my children this? How do I be there for them if I'm not that for myself? If I'm not achieving that for us and for myself, then how am I going to teach my children and be there for them like I felt like I needed someone there for me in my growing up? Um, so that would be my like purpose, is kind of figuring out how to accomplish those things and sharing it with the world and sharing it with my children and making sure that things are easier for them, not for a lack of hard work, but for a lack of failed efforts just because they didn't have the guidance or something.
Kudos to you. I'm just thinking about summarizing everything here as we wrap up. I mean, you got pregnant in college, right? But
Yeah.
and here you are, a young kid, basically, and you weren't married. You decided to have the child. You're a single mom. Okay, that was your first major hurdle. Well, beyond the
Yes.
fact that your childhood was different, and you had the whole situation with your dad and all that. Then you get married, you have a couple more. All of a sudden, now you're a single mom with 3 kids. Okay.
Mhm.
And you're like, holy shit, man, this is okay. Life is throwing me some curveballs here. and then
Yeah.
you and then you get married to another guy with 3 kids, and now all of a sudden you got 7 kids, and then you figure, okay, I haven't had enough hurdles, so now I need more hurdles. I'm gonna cash in my 401k and start my own company and quit my job.
Yeah. 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 So
I
like
mean, it's
traditionally women aren't taught risk. That's a really big
you
thing. They're
risk
not
is not
taught.
something that risk is not
Yeah.
something you're worried about, I don't think.
Yeah, so I started out as kind of a risk-taking female. I remember at 9 years old, I jumped off my first 50-foot cliff, literally in Arizona. It was a 50-foot cliff, and all these adults were doing it. And I asked my mom, and she jokingly was like, "Sure, if you can do it, you know." Well, that's all I needed to hear. So I kind of never looked back from that. I remember thinking, okay, this is scary, this is hard, but all these other people are okay. Why wouldn't I be okay? And I tried it and I was fine. And afterwards, I kept taking little risk after little risk, in different capacities in different areas. So,
I don't think anything scares you too much. It would take a lot to get you flustered, I think.
potentially, yeah. Stuff with my kids scares me sometimes.
Well, you haven't had a sheriff's office call you at 3 a.m. for one of them yet, have you?
I have.
Okay. Well,
Yep, we've had car accidents. Yeah, we've had stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
we could do a whole episode on teenagers.
Yeah, we
No.
probably could. Yeah.
Brittany, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing
Yes.
about your life and your business. I like what you're doing. It is needed. The business is needed. I know from personal experience.
Yes.
It was great when I was the CEO of a couple of $50 million companies, product companies, and we had inventory, and the business has been around for 20 years. It was easy to get a line of credit. And
Yes.
then as a service provider and a small business as a recruiting firm, I was really caught off guard when I went down to the bank. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what
Yeah.
do you mean you want? So I think it's needed. I think what you're doing is wonderful. So
Thank you.
congratulations. Appreciate you being on the show and sharing your story. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it very much.